Good evening, all my dear friends, photographers and travelers. Chris Lee here. I will be present you first episode of my travelogues and welcome you to my travel channels. This travel channel is created, with the aim, right, to allow a friend of mine to be virtually able to visit the world without moving out of his home and be able to enjoy the beautiful world around us. And it's from the perspective of our photographers, where by saying seeing the world through the lens. And the presentation will be done in a slideshow manner. And after my introduction video last week, and tonight is a real showcase of my first travelogues. And I'm going to share with you the travelogues cover my journey to Russia. For a start, we will touch on the Russia because it's so unique in my sense that it's so special in many ways, in terms of culture, in terms of religions, and so on, and so much thing to explore. And that's where I decided to showcase the first nation, Russia. Now, in this episode, I will introduce two. One is a city, one is a town that's nearby Lake Baikal. Before the next episode, we'll cover in more detail actually the Lake Baikal. And Lake Baikal regions have been awarded as a UNESCO Natural Heritage Site. And because of this award, that have attracted a lot of visitors. And the visit during the summer, you can see the crowd. Fortunately, because our visit is during the winter, so the crowd is much less. And therefore, we are able to take much more photos than usual. Now, my travelogues cover Russia will be in 5 episodes and will be covered on a weekly basis. And we mean that every Saturday at 9 p.m. Malaysian time, I will cover the remaining 4 episodes on a weekly basis until the end of this month. And at the same time, if you like my channels, I would much appreciate you can subscribe and share my channel to your friends and family, because this travel channel is with the aim to showcase all the beautiful places in the world where I'm fortunate to be able to visit. And at the same time, you can still click on the bell, the notification bell, so that you get notified whenever there is a new upload of my video or my travelogues. Please help to promote these channels, because in this difficult time, particularly the whole world are affected by COVID-19 pandemics. Countries close their borders. Everybody are staying at home. Stay safe. So I believe that this channel will help in entertaining people who are actually trapped at home, and please share around. Right? So I shall move on these travelogues in a proper. Alright? So please stay tuned and let's move on. Now, as usual, I emphasize a lot by seeing the world through the lens. So you are expected to see the world in a manner, in the form of pictures. So the slideshow is the only way for me to present in my travelogues. Please bear with me. At the same time, because Russia is a very unique country, the language is so different from English. So sometimes it's quite difficult to pronounce the name of the Russian names. So please pardon me if I did make some mistake in spelling the words or the names, the straight. Please pardon me, because it's not easy to spell of Russian names. And that's where my handicap, I believe that indeed is my handicap. So now this is the part 1 of the 5 part of my travelogue cover Russia. And the pictures that you see, there are some toys And these toys actually represent a type of animals, a species of animal that's so unique, only can find in Lake Baikal, and they call it the Baikal seals. Unfortunately, during our visit, that we didn't have a chance to see this seal, and I can only show this using the toy to represent how unique this Lake Baikal is to the world. Now, to cover the Lake Baikal, basically, I need to break into two parts. The part one, basically, I will cover, as I mentioned just now, a city and a town where closest to the Lake Baikal. And therefore, that's what will be covered today. And the second part will be next week, next Saturday, will actually cover the Lake Baikal itself. And therefore, the scope that I intend to cover today is more on the townships, the place of interest that you can find in these townships, and some of the local delicacy or meals that most visitors would like to try. Of course, for the part two, the next week, we'll basically cover the place of stay, how it look like, the natural beauty, and also what are activity that you can explore and enjoy while you are in Lake Baikal. So let's move on. Now, a lot of Malaysians, if I tell him that Lake Baikal, they probably still do not know where is it. Even I tell you this Russia, it's not easy to find Lake Baikal because it's just a vast piece of land, the largest landmass in the world. And what prompted me to decide to go to Lake Baikal? It's because I saw a video and in YouTube, and it struck me. And there's so many things that's so unique, and which I'm going to share with you in my travelogues. Now, the travel to Lake Baikal, of course, is by taking a flight. And when I get in touch with my agents in the midst of arranging these private trips, because I can't find many travel agents, or rather there's very few or two, maybe one or two travel agents that organize trip to Lake Baikal. And therefore, I decided to make this a private trip of my own. So there's a consideration of how to go there. And after looking around, we realized that actually to go into Lake Baikal, you have to land in a transit city. The name of the city is Irkutsk. And this is the only city nearest to Lake Baikal have international airport. And to go to Irkutsk itself, there's no direct flight from Malaysia. You have to by way of transit. So after looking around, there's only two choices I have. One of the choice is transit Beijing, China. The other choice is transit Bangkok. As we know that the flight that I'm chartered to go, we are taking by flight, is on two different airlines. And therefore, we realized that actually if a transit is Beijing, that you have to get out from the airline, collect our luggage, claim our luggage, then move on to check in again. They involve moving out of immigration and then moving in again. So we are worried that because we are not intend to apply a China visa just for transit. And therefore, without want to take much chances, we decided why don't we transit Bangkok? Because for Malaysians, you need a visa, right, to enter Thailand. And therefore, let's look at where exactly the locations of Lake Baikal. It's literally up north. You fly almost near to 90 degrees up, straight up. You are likely landed in Lake Baikal. It's above Mongolia. After China, Mongolia is at the borders. So the journey is quite far, and it will take approximately 12 hours, depend on also your transit time. For our case, because we transit in Bangkok, we have about 6 hour transit time in Bangkok, so the time taken is much longer. So actually we are leaving KL to Bangkok in the morning, and we arrive the next day morning, literally 24 hours. But good thing is that because our flight from Bangkok to Irkutsk itself, it allowed us a good rest in the plane. And therefore, by the time we reach Irkutsk in the morning, we should have quite a good rest. So this is the intention why I have planned to take the transit while Bangkok. Now, here, this is what you will look like, the location of Lake Baikal. On the right, the map itself, you can see Lake Baikal is just a long slender lake, but don't underestimate the area of this lake. It's very, very large, cover very large area. And on the small maps on the left, that basically you will find is the three spots that we intend to visit. The spot A is the Irkutsk, the town where we will land, our plane will be landed. And the B exactly is the place where we're going to put our night in Lake Baikal, which we'll cover in the next Saturday. So the A to C is another small town that right at the edge of Lake Baikal. Alright, its name is Listvyanka, which is only about 70 km south of Irkutsk. Will take about an hour drive on the roads. So we are going to cover today A and C and leave it the B in coming weeks. So therefore, our explorations, our tour in Irkutsk basically is to explore the culture-rich historical town. It's more than 100 years old. And at the same time, we also try to, enjoy some of the good meals, the local meals, and surprisingly, because the influx of tourists, there's a lot of hotels, there are a lot of eateries being set up in this town. So meal and accommodation is not a problem, and that's make this Irkutsk a very popular town. And of course, then the Listvyanka is basically a small fishing village in the beginning, but because of proximity to Lake Baikal and because of influx of the tourists, it's also getting more popular and become touristic lately. Now, this is a picture of Irkutsk, but it's on not the old historical area of the town, it's on the new district, because you look at any major city in the world, that they always have an old historical regions, city center, and they start expanding, they move forwards, outwards, then you found that actually the newest city development was actually on the outskirts, where the city center, right at the center of the city, is actually the historical area. The same thing also applies to Irkutsk. Now let's touch about Irkutsk. Allow me to read out. Irkutsk is the de facto capital city of Eastern Siberia, of Russia, which is also known as the Paris of Siberia. Now the city was found in 1661. Imagine it's quite a long time. It's about 360 years ago. And it was sited right at the confluence of two rivers, the river Angara and Irkutsk River. This city is one of the largest cities in Eastern Siberia and is getting more touristic in the recent year due to close proximity to the Lake Baikal and also because of the proclaims of the UNESCO site, thus adding a major so-called tourist hubs for those traveling to Lake Baikal. They mean that this is more like the entry point, or the entry point to Lake Baikal. You then to put your foot on this city before you move on to Lake Baikal. And it's also one of the most popular stops along the Trans-Siberia Railway. You heard about this railway? Well, if you're taking from the easternmost of the Russia to the Moscow, the whole journey on the train will last you continuously for 7 days. It's the longest railways in the world. So this railway line passed through Lake Baikal and stop at Irkutsk. So most visitors who travel taking the train, very light chances they stop over in Irkutsk to pay a visit to Lake Baikal. Now, Irkutsk being the historical center of this city is compact. This city is, although it's covered quite a big area, but the historical center is at a smaller area at the center of the town, and it's very compact, right? And it's very accessible and walkable. So therefore, if you are staying near the historical center, walking around to all these major places of interest, it's within walking distance. It's not a problem at all. So the transportation is not need to worry at all, because your leg is the best form of transport. And this town is filled with 19th century architectures. And a lot of churches were revived because, Russia undergone many wars. So some of the church was burned down during the wartime. And also there are a lot of classic eatery, which is abundance. So that's where tourists like most. You enjoy the sightseeing, you enjoy the culture, at the same time you enjoy the food there. Right? And like most Russian city, that monuments and sculptures are found everywhere in the city. The places of interest in Irkutsk will include some of the church, like for example, Irpeni's cathedrals, Church of Our Lady of Kazan, and also the shopping street. They call it 130's Wata, right? It's a street, right? And then the central market. We had one central open air market, quite unique. And at the same time, the so-called the Karma Street is also like our street, like what you say, just like some famous shopping street in Malaysia, right? And also you can enjoy your view along the river, because it's at the confluence of the two rivers. So therefore, along the bank of the river itself is also an interest place to visit. So we are move on today to show some of the pictures that are taken, and to show you how exactly look like in the town, or rather this city, Irkutsk. Now this is actually in one of the streets, and we still find some old trams are still operating. I believe these trams have more than half a century old, and it's still functioning. And happened to be our hotel was right nearby, so that every time the tram passed by, you can feel the vibrations and the noise that they generated by the moving tram. And we are fortunate that while we're in Irkutsk itself, the weather is good. We are get blessed by the good weather. Now this is another portion of the street, the same street, but as we move along, you find that a lot of wooden building architectures. All these buildings are some even almost close to 100 years, because Irkutsk was found more than 100 years ago, right? And some of these building structures are still preserved very, very well. And you look at the windows, each and every windows are so well decorated. Probably it's actually the richness of the architectures in this part of the town, also throughout Russia. This is a bit fairly modern eateries on the shopping streets, and we are very busy taking pictures, so we just managed to capture some of these pictures to illustrate that the old and the new, the contrasting difference between an old street and a fairly new street in Irkutsk town. I took this picture is beside the building behind. I was fascinating that these two gentlemen were stood on the street, not on the shoulder of the roads, and talking there. In Malaysia, if you stood in that manner, I think probably the car not on you. But over there happened to be not many cars. That could be the reason why they stood on the street and quite a long time there. I managed to take this picture just because these two gentlemen there. Our visit there is during winter, and you know that the temperatures even during the daytimes are all well below zero, freezing point. And therefore, most of the time at night there's snow, and the snow will then traps in the roof. And this is actually a roof scene, a picture taken of the roof of this building. And what attracted me again still the window, the architectural work, the woodworks of the architect, the intricate woodworks of the windows is very, very interesting. And of course, this roof you can find abundance in Europe's, in those climate temperate country, because this is the best form of roof against the snow. As you walk along this street, you will come across a lot of old building, the old fence, strictly constructed of timber. And you can see the aging look of the timber. Easily, these building structures, this fence, this perimeter wall, were easily maybe 50 years or more. But the more interesting part is that when it comes to the next slide, there is this row of houses. Do you notice what's so unique about this? Yes, you are right. The window. You look at the window levels and the roof level, it was so close. The roof level is so high. So we also feel very funny. So we asked our tour guide, why this window is so low? So the tour guide told us that not to worry. Actually, at the early time of this, when this town is formed, when the building is erected, the road level is quite low. But every year, when there's a top up, the road resurfaced, they repave. When they repave, they don't remove the old layer. They just top up. Year after years. And finally, they realize that actually the road level now are getting higher and higher close to the window. So this can one of the very unique feature that you can find in Lake Baikal in Irkutsk, this town. And this is also a very unique, but it's very common in Russia. You see the wall of these buildings is constructed using solid rocks, solid locks, wooden locks. Because the species of tree in Russia, in this part of Russia, is very straight. So they just have to cut it and then just lay on top of one another to form the wall. Believe me, timber is one of the best form of insulation material against loss of heat, particularly in this extreme cold weather, places like Siberia. So therefore, that the heat loss through the wall will minimum because of these solid timber locks to form the wall. Very unique. These are a few more pictures of the old street where you can find some of these old buildings still well preserved and still stood there, strong and beautifully maintained. This is another one. You can see that the architecture of the window is the most standout of all. Then some of the places, whenever you visit in any places, you can't avoid visiting religious building or religious worship places. So therefore, we also visit this Holy Cross Cathedral, and again, this is a very unique style of architectures. You look at the roof, right? It look like a sharp cone, but it's not a cone. Actually, it's I think it's hexagonal or octagonal in shape at the base. And this is the entrance to this cathedral. This is inside the cathedral and the exterior of the building. This form of architecture was way back to, should be 17th and 18th centuries. More inclined influence of the Europeans. But of course, Irkutsk happened to be a bit far away. But later on in my episode, talking about other two major towns of Russia, there's St. Petersburg and Moscow, you will start realizing actually the influence of Europe architecture is very, very strong. And they are very good in decorating the exterior, just using two colors, like this case, the pinkish red and also the white, to enhance the beauty, the look of the whole cathedrals. So a lot of building, church religions, the religions buildings are decorated in that manner. Very outstanding. This is another slide by looking up. And this is what we found inside. We allowed to take pictures. And the only thing is that we realize actually taking picture in cathedrals is not permitted in this part of the world. However, they discourage using flash, and also they don't allow you to use tripod. This is quite common, understandable, because tripod sometimes you take up space when it's crowded during the peak season. We are fortunate because our visit is during winter, so it's considered off season, so that when we enter these cathedrals or this church, literally we are the only visitors, so we have all the opportunity to take pictures. What strikes me most and like most in this church or this cathedral is this thin glass on the window. Very outstanding. Unfortunately, the time is quite limited, and also this church is still considered not the most beautiful church in Irkutsk. I will share with you another cathedral is among the top most beautiful cathedral in Russia later on. Well, this is another exterior views of this Holy Cross Cathedral. Another view. Here we come. I consider this is the most beautiful cathedral in Irkutsk. And I also found one in St. Petersburg. But let's look at this first. Is it impressive, the outlooks? The blue domes, the red painted external wall, the white straps is blend out beautifully, make the whole architecture colors stand out prominently from far. And let's go a bit more detail on this Church of Our Lady of Kazan. This is a must-visit cathedral in Irkutsk if you have a chance to visit this part of the world. Okay, I consider the second most beautiful church cathedral that I visit and have taken the pictures extensively. This is one of them, but this is of a smaller scale. This cathedral or church constructed in the year 1885. That means it's more than 100 over years, and was completed in the year 1892. It's Orthodox Church standard in Russia. All the churches are Orthodox. And in Irkutsk is still performing the function at the cathedrals for these two regions, Irkutsk and Angarsk regions. They cover these two regions, this church, still performing the usual function. This multi-tier Siberian Baroque style church usually stand out with its brilliant red colors, exterior capped with blue domes, as I mentioned just now. The inner space are decorated with fresco painting, quite popular as well. They used to decorate internally with a lot of painting. There's an unique iconostasis, right, found across the Russian Orthodox Church. This 17th and 18th centuries European style of architecture is characterized by its highly ornate and extravagant in style. Therefore, it's unbelievably beautiful. And I'm going to show you some of the pictures taken inside this church. You can see when we enter, they are still performing functions, so we are not allowed, and also we are asked not to take pictures, right? But we can take it from far. So this is one of the pictures that I've taken. You can look at how elaborated the decorations. Every corner of the church is well decorated. This is where I look up, taking the picture, shining toward the dome, the largest and highest dome of the church. And the light, the sun rays just shine through the window above the dome. You can see the decorations. It's so beautiful. I literally stood there, refused to come out because the camera shutter, it just keep pressing. The only challenge in taking picture interiorly at this cathedral, or most of the cathedral or church, that you are not allowed to use flashlight. So they mean that you're taking picture in the low light conditions. So you have to make sure that you have very good cameras that can able to allow you to take low light picture. This another shot of the ceiling right below the chandelier, and just look up. Beautiful, symmetrically arranged. You can see the painting on the ceiling, the well decorated arch. Every corner is so well decorated. Right. Interesting. Well, you probably can spend time there. We feel the time is not enough. When you enter, you don't feel like going out. You still continue taking picture. Now this is another pictures, 3 pictures all together. And this is just to show you the interior on the other side of between the interior of the church. It's so elaborated, extravagantly. I would strongly believe that no one will deny the fact this is one of the most beautiful cathedrals in Irkutsk that we have encountered during the trip. So after visiting the religious places, worship places, we go out and start exploring the surrounding of Irkutsk. Then we will bring to a city recreation park. Again, because the city was seated just at the confluence of the river, so they also decided to put the recreational park next to the river. And when we are there, the blue sky the yesterday's snows covers the whole park. A very peaceful scenes, not many people, but extremely peaceful and extremely beautiful. And again, we managed to take quite a fair bit of pictures in this city recreational park. This is another view. Well, I think you can just put a lazy man chair there and sit there for probably 2 hours. I won't think you will feel boring with it. Indeed, this side of scene is just unbelievably beautiful. And even at certain corner, there are some trees. Of course, during winter, you don't expect to see any leaf, but even a leafless tree is also give you a beautiful scenes. Every picture that I've taken in this park, in my opinion, is beautiful. Another scene, you can see the wideness of this park. The rivers was semi-frozen. And we were advised, of course we saw some local, they are walking on the frozen river surface. But we were asked not to do so because the thickness, eye thickness on these rivers are not consistent. And you will step on the place where it's thin enough that you may just break the ice and you go down. So therefore, we are advised that just stay on the bank and just watch it. Even though the local are doing that, we are not advised to do so. So we just had to be obedient boy during this visit. Then you move on to another place. It's also a river bank of Ankara River. And this time, we go much closer to the river bank. We're literally walking on the river bank. And we found that a lot of local Russian families, they bring the kid, have fun on the river bank. And the far end behind, you can see is a new city center. And we were told that this Ankara River, despite even under extreme temperature, like we told you that daytime, during the extreme cold, it can even reach to -60 at time, but most of the time it reached -30. Under -30 condition, by right, the river should be fully frozen. The river's water, at least the top layer, will be frozen and covered with ice. But it's not the case. These rivers, you find them throughout the years, even during winter season. You can see maybe patches here and there, there's some floating ice, but the river did not frozen completely, only partially. This is the picture that I'll show you that the modern, one of the most modern residential buildings in Irkutsk city, the opposite the river bank where we stood. And while walking in the old town, of course, there are also, because the tourist spot actually is the historical area of the old town, not actually the new township area. And again, we are the very few tourists, and you still can see very interesting architectures at the paved street. The red street was cobblestone paved, and the picture you can see some of it as our tour mate and some of the locals, but very few because the weather at that time when we visit is actually, I think it's in the regions of -5 in the daytime. What I'm trying to show in this slide is that somehow or other, for a lady, even at these extreme temperatures, extreme weathers, they wear bikini or miniskirt in this case, miniskirts. We are literally cover our whole body with thick warm clothing, and they are in this type of dressings, unbelievable. And Russian ladies are very beautiful, very pretty and beautiful, and very trendy. You see the dressing itself. And I believe that you know that a lot of models are coming from Russia, are Russian girls, Russian ladies. And as I said earlier, this country undergone many great war, and therefore they built a lot of monuments, sculptures to remember the people, how hard they fought and defend their country. So you can literally walk in every corner, you found a lot of sculptures, either on the wall or it's actually uniquely displayed at the entrance of the street. And I found this old antique car right in front of a cave. But this cave is not open. I think because it's winter time. The visitor, the crowd is very low. So probably they decided not to operate and take a holiday for that. And then we move on to the marketplace, the central market regions. It's all within walking distance. Literally, we did not ride on a bus. We will just get down in one spot and then we just walk. The whole 2 days when we are in Irkutsk itself, we're literally walking from one corner of the town to the other corner of the town. And we found there's a lot of kiosks. But most of these kiosks, either they're fully enclosed, and at the same time, not many of them are operating. I think during winter, as I said, the crowd is less, the visitor even far less because it's off-peak. So a lot of them are decided not to even do business operating during winter months. Here we come, the open air market. We were forewarned, please do not take picture of the vendor. So they say that they are very unhappy if you take a camera pointed at them. So I have no choice but to help my camera at chest level, at waist level, and take some snap and try my luck and manage to capture one or two of these pictures as a representation of how it looked like. And because it's under the extreme cold temperatures, so literally there actually is an open air freezer. So all these vegetables and all these fruits can be kept fresh over a longer time than you found in Malaysia. And the last stop of our visit of this street, in this shopping street, is actually a modern shopping mall. Even how modern it is itself, it's just only a 3-4 story shopping mall, and out at the outside of the mall itself, this so-called glass wall give a very good reflections of the kiosk, colorful multicolored kiosk at my back, and I stood there and take a shot. And this is quite interesting pictures that I've taken along the entire trip, using reflections of the mirror. So much so for this town, Irkutsk. And let's move on. But before that, as I said earlier, there's no problems. There are plenty of hotels and accommodation available for tourists, and there's a lot of eatery. Therefore, food and accommodation is abundant in this part of the town. It's getting very touristic year by year. Then we move on to a small town. And this town called Listvyanka. Right? It's just only about 70 km south of Irkutsk. Those tourists that are not intend to explore Lake Baikal in detail in length, they normally just stop over Irkutsk and then have a day trip to Listvyanka. right? And then to visit some of the museum there, and then after that, they're back to Irkutsk to continue the journey to other part of Russia. But we visit these small towns after our visit from Lake Baikal. On the return trips, we back to Irkutsk, then we further south to this Listvyanka to experience some of the beautiful architectures. This is some of the information that you can get, which I want to share with you about this Listvyanka, this small village town. It's actually an old-style Siberian fishing village, with less than about 3,000 populations. And it's located not far from the source of Ankara River. Now I must mention here is that this Lake Baikal, they have collected water from all the small rivers that contribute to the lake's water's volumes. But they are not just stopped there. From Lake Baikal, it then discharges down outwards to the Northern Sea, to the Arctic Sea in the north, cutting through Siberia. And happen to be, this Ankara River is a source of water for Ankara River. So the waters are flowing from the lake to the river. It's not from the river to the lake. This could be the reason explained why the river never get frozen. Because the amount of water that flow out from this Lake Baikal to this Ankara River is quite substantial, and the flow rate is quite fast. It don't allow time for the water to get frozen. Now, because of this close proximity to Lake Baikal, right, Listvyanka, it become a local weekend tourist spot, holiday resort for the local. So a lot of Russians during the weekend will come over to this small little fishing village to have their outdoor activity, whether it's during summer will be the water sport, during winter will be the winter sport. And it took only an hour drive from Irkutsk to Listvyanka. So being the closest lakeside village, this village not only attracted a large crowd from the local, as I mentioned earlier, we also attracted a lot of Chinese tourists. Malaysian tourists is very, very rare, so we are the rare species there. And also because the Trans-Siberian Railway are passing through the Lake Baikal, and they stop at Irkutsk. So they also equally attracted quite a fair bit of the train passengers, right? Decided to put a stopover in Listvyanka for a day before they continue the journey, the train journey. So besides the Russian taking it as holiday resort, and for the foreigner, they coming here are not so much for the sport, but they are more for ecotourism and to explore the uniqueness of Lake Baikal, which I'm going to share with you quite a fair bit of the picture taken in Lake Baikal next week. So during winter months, the frozen lake offer many opportunities for winter sport and activity such as dog sledding, snowmobile, and also ice skating, and many other activities that you can find on ice. And over the entire village, we only able to find one market, and they call it the fish market. And in this fish market is where you found the famous local species of fish called oatmeal fish. You can get the oatmeal fish, smoked oatmeal fish for meal. During the summer times, when during a peak season itself, if you go late, you will not find this fish anymore. Fully sold out. By the time after the noon, after the lunch hours, all are gone. Right? So if you want to eat oatmeal fish, smoked oatmeal fish, please go to this market in the morning during the peak season. For us, because it's during winter, so even after meal, we still found some oatmeal fish still for sale. Good thing about that. Now, the attraction in this Listvyanka is no other than one of the old wooden church called St. Nicholas Church and observation decks that next to a famous Chersky stone, and then another stone called Salmon Stone, which actually an ancient place to heathenize the profane rates, right? And at hilltop nearby, which turned into a ski resort during winter, and we took the cable car to ascend to the hilltop to save the time of walking. They also have a museum called Baikal Limnological Museum, which is also a marine research center in this town, this village, which actually carry out the research of all the lakes and rivers for the Siberia regions. And they have exhibits. The exhibit there focus on the origin and history of Lake Baikal and its fauna and fauna. Now, then they also another architecture's open air museum. It's called Telsey Architectural Ethnographical Open Air Museum, which exhibiting the traditional Siberian wooden architectures, cultures, and lifestyle. Which all this will be exhibited in a subsequent photo that I'm going to show you. Now this is on the main streets, and you can see that there's a sign there in Chinese words that show you how popular this place to the Chinese nations during the summers, particularly during the Chinese holiday, like the National Day, the New Year Day, and the Labor Days in China. There will be hundreds of Chinese tourists traveling to this part of the world. And this town or this village is situated right at the edge of Lake Baikal. This is a scene we saw when we were there. And you can see exactly the whole Lake Baikal was covered under the frozen ice completely, except River Angara. Another view, mind you that it's very, very slippery. If you didn't equip yourself, the shoe, with some form of spike, I think you hardly can walk on it. Anyway, for the local, they seem to get used to it. They walk very easily, without anything, without a spike planted on their shoe. They can walk so fast. We are so envy, but we are just, I think, just can't move about. You move a bit faster, you will feel that you are lost your balance. And you can see that during the winter, there are fishermen no longer going for fishing. So what they do, they change the occupations. They turn into a tourist, operating tourist activity like those winter sport. You can see in the picture there. So whoever tourists there, then they can ride on this, of course you have to pay. That's how they earn some income from the tourists, or even from the local Russians. Here is where the fish market that I mentioned, one and the only one. And on the left, the whole row of building is an eatery, it's a restaurant. So we have our lunch here, enjoying the local fish, oatmeal fish, smoked oatmeal fish. I will share with you how it look like when you walk into this fish market. The fish market is a dry market. It's not the wet market like what you found in Malaysia. What you found are literally on both sides of the store. There are actually two long rows of store. From a loops going old ship. And on this side, on the left side, more on the fish, on the right side, more on the handicraft and local products. And we also found some precious stone, very attractive and nice, but I believe that it's not cheap. But anyway, I'm not interested in precious stone, except my wife. She liked that. But we didn't have much time because after this place, we had to continue our journey, trying to catch a flight to Moscow, our next stop. And you will find this handicraft is very popular. It's an iconic symbol of Russia. Whoever tourists tour Russia, I believe that likely chances you buy one of these Russian called nesting doll to bring back as a souvenir. Anybody look at it will know this come from Russia. And I will later on share with you in other episodes itself how fascinating this nesting doll look like. And it's not cheap. Some of them are very, very expensive due to its constructions. Here you can have a closer look of the fish, oatmeal fish. Most of the fish here are being smoked and you can eat on the spot. And they even warm up for you if you want to eat on the spot. A closer look again of the fish. And this happened to be the eatery store that we have our lunch. And I like very much is this dish, right? Pilaf. It's quite similar to the rice we ate when I was in Xinjiang, China. I think because of the close proximity from one another. In fact, the Xinjiang, Mongolia, and this part of Russia are almost in the same regions. So the culture somehow or other have been overlapped. And this rice pilaf, mutton rice pilaf, I enjoy it very, very much. In fact, it's one of my best meals in Russia. And the lady in the box is my darling. She also enjoyed the meal. Although she can't take mutton, but she still liked the rice. And this is a barbecue chicken. They also did barbecue chickens for lunch beside the fish. As we walk along the riverbank of Ankara River, you can see the rivers hardly find any frozen ice. The reason I told you just now, the river flows very swiftly. They don't give any opportunity for any ice to be formed. While on the bank it was covered with snow. And they found this patio belonged to a hotels. Again, it's off-peak seasons, so we are only visited there. We didn't stay in this hotel, but we just want to pay a visit to have a look at this Ankara River and managed to take this scene while we are there. And this is a cable car that we took up hills, right, to ascend the ski resort, and you can see a lot of skiers are also taking opportunity to enjoy the winter sport. It's over here we managed to have experience the hovercraft ride. It's not cheap but still okay. If I can recall, it's about $10 per person, and we have a group of 8, so we chartered the whole hovercraft. I'm not sure whether it's an hour or 2 hour ride, but it's just an experience. If you are there, please do try to ride on this hovercraft. And they stopped us at this spot where the Trans-Siberia Railway line. So we went up to the river line and also took some pictures. And this is where, if you are travel by trains, you'll be passing through here and have a grand view of Lake Baikal. If you do not stop over at Irkutsk, then this will be the view, the only area you have a view of the Lake Baikal if you by train. This is actually the heart there, the spot there is actually called the observation deck, and beside the deck actually the Chersky stone, right? And we literally also enjoy walks in this hill resort. The most interesting part to me is still this museum. We call Tuesday Architectural Ethnographical Open Air Museum. It's a showcase of a village, a real Siberian village, constructed fully of wooden houses and wooden structures. A very comprehensive type of village with all sorts of building structures being erected to showcase to the visitor. And the scene, the snowy scene, is beautiful. In fact, in this spot, I took the most pictures of the trip while I'm in Listvyanka. And these are some of the pictures I've taken of the wooden hut. This is another one. You can see the elaborated gate, entrance gates. The building, the wall is constructed of wooden logs, huge logs, timber logs. Another view. Another view. It's beautiful. I enjoy very much looking at when we spend about half a day in this open air museum. Here comes this building. What do you think? It looks like what? It's a jail. This entrance to the jail. You see the fencing at the back? They're almost close to 4-meter high wooden posts stacked together to form a very solid wall, perimeter wall. Inside the wall is the jail compound. And this is another buildings. You look at the elaborated carving of the windows. And while we are there, we coincide with it's on the 8th of March, and it's called World Women Day. And when we are visiting there, all ladies will get a free cup of drink, but not the man. So my darling got her cup of drink. And they also selling local delicacy on those stores where you see the crowds are gathered, and also some of souvenir handicraft are for sale. And this is my darling, my wife, stood beside 3 young Russian lady. They are very pretty. Okay, before I end, let's talk about, we overheard that Lake Baikal is contain the cleanest water in the world, and also deepest lakes in the world. I will share with you more about Lake Baikal, the detail of it, the other critical information about Lake Baikal. But over here, when we visit the Limnological Museum, there are two things that we have to know. One is that, do you see this picture, the yellow creature? This insect-like yellow creature was found in Lake Baikal. And I was told that this is the creature that generates oxygen. The high level of dissolved oxygen in Lake Baikal are attributed by this yellow creature. Tiny yellow creatures that found in Lake Baikal. Then you found another creature or another organism. That is, you look at on the right picture, there's one green light, plant-like structure. This is actually a type of spawn-like plants. And it filters as a spawn. It filters the waters. And I was told the lake water will filter almost 13% of the water will be filtered per year with this plant, with these spawns, the green spawn. And because these two that give rise to a extremely clean water in Lake Baikal, and also because of the high dissolved oxygen level, that you can find many living things that live deep under the lakes. And the depth, the deepest spot of this lake is 1,630 something meter. I will let you know in the next episode exactly how deep the lake is. So that will cover today's my episode on these two towns. One is the city that also the capital city of Eastern Siberia, the most populated city in Eastern Siberia. At the same time, this fishing village, which only have a 3,000 populations. And I will present my travelogues cover Lake Baikal, as I mentioned earlier, over and over again in coming weeks, with more detail, more beautiful nature scenery of Lake Baikal. And just ensure you don't miss out these episodes and all subsequent episodes. Just remember that I will continue to stream my next 4 episodes on Russia on the 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st October. In other words, for the entire balance of October Saturdays at 9 p.m., I will showcase my travelogues on Russia. Thereafter, I will put a break of 1 or 2 weeks for a next nation to be picked. I will announce which nation will be picked after I completing my travelogue for Russia. I sincerely wish that if you like my these travelogues that I've showcased today and like to know more about all my travel journey, please do subscribe and also click the notification bells so that you will get notified whenever there's uploads. And please also do share this channel so that more friends of yours were able to have an idea of the place that I've showcased in my travelogues. The world is beautiful. Let's share the beautiful world to everybody. And this is the end of today's travelogues. And I hope you enjoy it. And please, if you want to know the link to my this travel channel, is shown in these slides. And by clicking to this, log into this site, you'll be able to access to my travel channels in YouTube. And thank you for with me, and good night. See you again in next week.